So move number one, let's go, pick a call, let's go, pick a call. Go, 1, 2, 3, 4. Now let's go, another one, let's go. Awesome, let's try again, let's try again. Awesome. One time, let's go. The very last thing, and change. Ladies and gentlemen, help me welcome on stage the one and only Elizabeth Obanda.
It's a lovely evening, so I hope that you are well. It is a pleasure to be here today on behalf of Ms. Anna Mutharati, the UN Women Country Representative, who was not able to join me today. We have been asked to discuss how to inculcate sanity in the marketing sector. And I have a whooping 45 minutes to do it, so please don't go to sleep on me. Keep awake. I will, however, not discuss what aids the sector. Most of you are experts. Instead, I wish to remind you that God created them, man and woman. And they come as diverse as the colors of the rainbow. All sorts of shades and shapes, beautiful and not so beautiful, young and old, while others are differently enabled and come from diverse social, cultural, and economic backgrounds. But they are all part of an ecosystem that must synergize, must feed off one another in order to stabilize. The question is, do we bear this in mind as we are marketing? And do we reflect them progressively in our work? Or do we box them in a harmful space called stereotypes? How do we, as marketers, use the spaces and power we have to right roles, to shift perceptions for good, to imbue responsibility in different genders and institutions, to shift careers to inform the future of work for our children? With our broad strokes, do we increase or can we increase the number of girls in STEM? So it ceases to be, oh, a woman pilot, can she do it? Are we safe? At the United Nations Entity for Gender Equality and Women Empowerment, UN, we know that gender equality and women's empowerment are prerequisites for strong institutions and communities and stable economies. That for our society to be progressive, it has to be well sensitized and socialized in raising an engendered civilization that leaves no one behind and does no harm, but rather embraces all its human wealth as solution multipliers. And yet, and in the case of marketing, 72% of men and women say most advertising does not reflect the world around them. However, 70% of brand purchasing decisions are made by women. So in fact, you are shooting yourself in the foot if you do not take a gender lens to marketing. Further still, brands that deliver progressive ads have a higher purchase intent of more than 25% for all consumers and 25% for women. It is good for business, after all. In July of 2021, the Cherry Blair Foundation for Women, in their study of women entrepreneurs and stereotypes, found that gender stereotypes significantly shape women's journeys to and through entrepreneurship by affecting their aspirations, sources of support, opportunities, access to resources, perceptions, and the wider entrepreneurial ecosystem in multiple ways. They affect different women in different and multiple ways, intersecting with other kinds of stereotypes, including age, social class, ethnicity, and race. 49% of the women entrepreneurs interviewed reported that gender stereotypes were most commonly conveyed in the media. 61% say they believe that gender stereotypes impact their business growth and affect how seriously they are taken as business owners, while 58% said seeing women in leadership positions in their own community or country would have further encouraged them to start their own businesses. Sadly though, 96% of these women say that they had directly experienced stereotypes in their lives. So what are stereotypes? They are simply a set idea that people have about what someone or something is like, especially an idea that is wrong. Stereotypes are overgeneralization of certain characteristics about a certain group of people, and they can be positive, don't get me wrong. Like the view that poor people only got academic certificates and being addressed as doctors and professors. That is good for their image. I must say, our entertainment industry has benefited a lot from who we are as a people. Our ability in the Rift Valley to run, our love for guiding Western Kenya, our love for fishing Euroland, you name it. But it is said in a way that helps us to laugh at ourselves, and we appreciate that. But largely, stereotypes are harmful. When we glorify beating a woman or question their forthrightness and play on whether their no means no, or ridicule their dressing and justify sexual harassment due to a woman's dressing, that is not good. A whopping 69% Kenyans say that women call attention to themselves based on how they dress. That is how some people justify gender-based violence and sexual harassment of women and girls. If you box men as masculine and tough and provide us who should not cry, but be a man, you promote toxic masculinity, sending the ones that don't conform to commit suicide. You limit their yearning to seek help and safety when they are abused by their spouses. And yet, 42% of those polled agree that media in Kenya only portrays men in certain roles, while 39% of media in Kenya only portrays women in certain roles. So in fact, this industry here contributes to reinforcing harmful opinions, contributing to insanity, as you put it. And sometimes it is unintentional. But in your zeal to cater to certain audiences, marketers often fall for the stereotyping trap. In the year 2021, statistics released by the Ministry of Education show that 12,424 Class 8 candidates did not turn up to the Kenya Certificate of Primary Education examinations that were administered in March of that year. Gender-based violence was singled out as the major contributing factor. We know that gender-based violence spiraled out of control during the COVID-19 period, and that women were particularly affected. Some were maimed, while others were killed. And yet in a gender equality attitude study, 30% of Kenyans say that there are acceptable circumstances for someone to hit their spouse or partner. Please, you do agree with me that tackling gender stereotypes as a way of restoring sanity in marketing is the way to go. I hope. So, who are we and what do we do? United Nations Women stands at the center of mobilizing governments and civil societies to keep the promises of the Beijing Platform for Action to all of society. In everything it does, it is committed to making gender equality a lived reality for all women and girls who have historically been marginalized. United Nations Women, therefore, work to ensure that in all areas, including the marketplace, women lead, participate in and benefit equally from governance systems. Women have income security, decent work, and economic autonomy. All women and girls live a life free from all forms of violence, and women and girls contribute to and have greater influence in building sustainable peace and resilience, and benefit equally from the prevention of natural disasters and conflicts and humanitarian action. We work closely with the private sector to establish high-level corporate leadership for gender equality. In this case, UN Women Kenya has joined 193 United Nations member states and launched a national and stereotype alliance chapter. Safaricom, Unilever, Diageo, Qatar, Marketing Society of Kenya, Marketing Africa, that we are here celebrating. Dada and others are already members, and others are in the process of onboarding. So what is that stereotype alliance? It is a thought and action platform that seeks to eradicate harmful stereotypes of all kinds from advertising and media content. And Stereotype Alliance aims to foster workplace equality, to eliminate stereotypes, to achieve unstereotyped advertising, and empower public action against stereotypes. Convened by the UN Women, and Stereotype Alliance leverages both the United Nations global reach and recognition by 193 member states, as well as the private sector. Advocating against gender stereotypes is a priority area for the UN, and the Alliance seeks to empower people in all their diversity across the gender spectrum, including healthy masculinities. By bringing together industry leaders under the auspices of the United Nations, the Stereotype Alliance makes a powerful contribution towards a more equal world where people are represented in all their complexity of their culture and communities. No country has achieved gender equality to date. Please think about gender equality simply as providing equal opportunities to all genders. That alone is adequate. But it means that you have to be intentional about it. I watch the BBC, and I'm sure some of you do, and marvel how a person without sight can be a guide to world travel. But he is. How one without sight can be a political commentator. But he is. How Kate Eddy and currently Liz Doucette as women are at the front line of war, reporting fearlessly. But they are. It is about intentionality, equal opportunities, recognition of professionalism, but it is also about organizational policy, a progressive policy that aspires for 50-50 representation. The criticality of diversity, equity, and inclusion efforts is growing worldwide. The Stereotype Alliance national chapters ensure that harmful stereotypes are tackled with a global consistency and locally relevant approaches. Tangible global impact will only come from a clear understanding of each local market's social and cultural nuances and through the commitment and actions of local actors, brands, agencies, producers, advertising authorities, policymakers, all of them together. As you know, gender stereotypes are fairly common. You know that, I don't have to belabor that. You see them in ads, in over-sexualization of women, in unattainable standards of beauty, in an portrayal of people differently enabled. We see all of them. Stereotypes are pervasive and destructive, but we can help shape the world we imagine for ourselves and others by developing advertising that reflects the society around us, by taking collective action. As you know, modeling Google. So what can we do? We can and should promote progressive portrayal in Kenya's marketing space by casting characters in non-traditional roles. My heart warms up when I see the ad where a man is cooking sukuma wiki for his family, and yet his image is not diminished. If anything, it is enhanced. We need to regularly train marketers and creatives in progressive portrayal, checking all our marketing material for stereotypical portrayals before production and testing advertising content using a measurement tool such as the stereotype metric, and working to ensure your advertising contributes to ending harmful stereotypes. Use your platforms to increase understanding of how gender stereotypes shape women's lives, including entrepreneurship, economic participation, division of unpaid care work, and empowerment. Raise awareness about how gender stereotypes influence the realization of rights and equal opportunities, such as those related to economic participation and entrepreneurship. Campaign and advocate with others to deconstruct gender stereotypes and promote gender equality. You could start by demonstrating leadership and commitment to gender equality and advocating for the implementation of laws, policies, and programs to tackle gender stereotypes. Take concrete measures to prevent and eliminate gender stereotypes and their negative impacts, both in private and public spheres, and especially in media. In conclusion then, people are complex. Let's not reduce them to certain roles. Our society is diverse and multi-layered. Let's not ignore certain groups of people from our marketing activity. Let us reflect that technicolor that I spoke about at the beginning. Let me, Elizabeth, see myself positively portrayed in your ads. Let our children learn from the way that you portray women, persons with disability. They're not so beautiful, rural and informal settlement dwellers. Let them know that yes, their aspirations, whatever their circumstances, are achievable. If we were to do an advertising audit today, I wonder how many of your ads will be confirmed to be reinforcing some form of stereotypes. I mean, I don't know. For those of you who are in advertising, if you were to do that audit, if you want to self-reflect, how many of you are reinforcing those stereotypes? How many of you are putting women down? How many of you are putting youth down? How many of you are glorifying whatever it is you glorify? And as Solemn Rose says, tafakari haya. So, during this global movement, I appeal to you, get straight up alive. Be counted. Say no to stereotypes and restore sanity to the marketing space. Join these 193 states and members globally. Take leadership. We are conveners as the United Nations, but we are providing the space to marketers to run with it. I thank you for listening to me.
Help me welcome on stage the man, Mr. William Kalongo.
It has been more than 2 years since we are last here. The last function we had here was on 6th March 2020. It happened to be a function just a week to the closure of the economy because of COVID. And we went on leave as marketing after completely from events up till this particular event. So I just want you to clap for yourself in celebration of the fact that you came back. And the fact that it shall happen again. I know that during the last 2 years, we've lost a lot of friends, we've lost relatives, companies have closed. It has been a messy time. People have had to deal with a lot of depressive situations. People have lost money. And there are people, as we talk now, who used to lead glossy lives. They are struggling like a problem, is it? So, and I guess that's why, with a speech like what Dr. Gamaliel is going to give us, managing your wealth, we might learn one or two things to be able to walk in a steady manner in a difficult ecosystem. I always tell guys, I'm not giving a keynote speech, but we can disagree like that. Invest in your personal brand. I keep repeating that because I've seen many people overwhelmed and completely swallowed in the big brands they manage. So much so that when they lose that space, they struggle to explain who they are. The day you'll be out there telling people, I used to be, is because you fail to invest in your personal brand as the key driver. If your personal brand flourishes, the brand you work for will flourish even more. So don't get completely overwhelmed in the brands you are working for today and forget the brand called you. The brand called you is permanent. If it is problematic, there is a permanent problem that you must deliberately seek to sort out, isn't it? Why can't you clap for me? So please don't forget that point. And as we start this series again, which we are opening up across the region, we are extremely humble and thankful to those who accept to sacrifice their time, to invest in researching, to come and share notes and share keynote speeches with us. Liz, please give a clap to Liz for being one of them tonight. Dr. Gamaliel from Stima Sacco, we really appreciate that. Dr. Wale is walking in element, is behaving like a laggard today. I can see my chairman MSK. Charles, please wake up and just tell the people. Our chairman MSK. He kept us out yesterday very late, that's why we started late today. So some of the men should go that direction. And while it's still on that point, we play in the marketing window. If your professional association is weak, you are weak. If you are not an MSK member and supporting MSK, you are part of the problem of a weak MSK. We need all to come out, become members and active members at that, support the professional body so that it can represent us effectively and perfectly, isn't it? I think later on in the evening, he'll be sharing something small on the bill that we are going to pass, so that those of you who live by quacking your way, you may know that you need to comply so that you can survive perfectly. Thank you so much.
Because I know that there may be people who may not stay with us till the end, so it's always nice to know who is the brain behind this amazing venture. One of the things I like doing as well, before I invite the next speaker, is just giving our minds the chance to digest the information. And so I want to teach you guys something else. This time it's not necessarily a dance, but it still involves you waking up. So please rise to your feet one more time. It's totally different for the guys who came late. We did something. Awesome! You guys may have your seats. Thank you very much. He is the CEO of Stima Sacco. And having an understanding of Saccos, I know there's no one else who will be better placed in giving us the topic that is going to be tackled. So ladies and gentlemen, at this point I'd like you guys to just make him feel as welcome as possible. Sasa, ladies and gentlemen, help me welcome on stage Dr. Gamaliel Hassan. Come on guys, let's make him feel as welcome as possible because we are ready to listen to you. Karibu sana daktari.
Good afternoon, or evening, good evening everyone. Nice being here. I have a small presentation, and as it is being said, maybe I can make one or two comments. The first one to Elizabeth. Your speech moved me because my mother is amongst the people who went to Beijing. That's back in the 80s. And for those who might not know, my mom is called Fatima Abeida Nyanza. She is a human rights crusader and has been an activist for very many years. And one of the key things Elizabeth, she taught me was that, and I have this at heart, real men don't beat women. That's been ingrained in my head. So I had to speak about the gender, the violence and everything else. It made me go back to what I was taught as a child and what I truly believe until now. If you're a real man, you should never raise your hand against a woman, ever. So I'm a bit disappointed though. I was expecting to get the pink mic. For the ladies, excuse me. For us men are in pink, right? For the women, I know it's cool, Lisa. Because I know you have, okay. Speak like you. Just stand up, let them see. Just clap for him. This is something I was also taught, but this is by my father, that very strong man put on pink. So he's a very, very strong man. Very courageous man. So again, a clap for him. So I was hoping for the pink microphone so that it matches with me. You see, I even tried the tie and everything. You know, it's okay. It's good. But for the ladies, let me just tell you something. As men are colorblind, it's not a statement that we just make blindly. Okay, not colorblind. We tell colors, but not to the same level. So, like personally, I know red, I know blue, yellow. I tried pink. Of course, black and white, but all of those other shades in between, we have no clue. You can test that with anyone. If you have a man next to you, ask him the color that you are on, and I'll tell you, never tell you it's a brown color or one of the primary colors. Like, what color? That's an easy one. Yeah, there's a nice conversation going here. What color is that? According to you, what color is that? Oh, you're asking now. So you get my point. I'd also like to apologize to the cameraman. As you've noticed, I move around a lot. So I'll not be standing here and don't get tired to follow me. So introduction-wise, my name is Gamaliel Hassan. I'm the CEO at Stima Sacco. I consider myself an over-glorified salesperson who's overpaid. And I think that's the role of a CEO. The CEO's role is just to sell. So you can call me a CEO, but at the end, my role is to sell. The only difference is that, and I do believe this very much, and even at Stima, we don't sell money. Neither do we sell just products and services. We're actually in a business of selling trust. So we sell to you the fact that if you put money with us, we trust that you'll get your money back. We also entrust us that you'll get a good return back on your money. And it's a haven for growth. So that's basically what I'll attempt to do today. And also to showcase to you what the cooperative movement is all about. By a show of hands, how many of us are Sacco members? Any Sacco? Show hands. Wow, that's nice. The person next to you did raise his hand or her hand. Can I give you just 30 seconds to convince him or her why he should be a Sacco member? Let's do that. Just 30 seconds. Elevator pitch. Go ahead. Good. And with that, that's the end of my presentation. Thank you very much. I think I'm done, isn't it? So, I'll attempt, and thank you for having taken me through that. I'll attempt to also showcase to you what the movement is all about. If you're able to follow what is on the board there, I think my presentation was really about the role of Saccos in terms of the economy and how we contribute towards it as well. So I thought it was important that we first start off just appreciating what the world economy looks like. As of February of 2022, that's last one, the global inflation was at 7.5%. That's very high. Food prices have gone up. We have seen the adverse weather changes across Europe and across Africa. Nowadays, you don't even know when the rainy season is going to be. There's a war in Ukraine, and that's a big deal for all of us. We've seen fertilizer prices have come up. There's an increase in energy prices, and it's getting worse. I think there's a whole fight right now about whether or not Russia will be allowed to sell its oil in dollars or in rubles, and that's a whole different nightmare. And for those who follow international news, Russia would like to be paid in rubles or in gold. I remember the last person who did that was Gaddafi. Remember, Libya. Libya was an attempt to peg his currency to the gold reserve, but we know how that ended. The other one I do remember was Saddam Hussein, but anyway, I don't want to paint a grim picture, but I'm just trying to say that the world outlook doesn't look very positive from that end. Similarly, there has been a decline in the developed economies. We're looking at 4.1% in terms of growth in the year 2022. which is down from 5%. It's not all gloomy. On that other side, I've talked about what can be done around it, helping people getting back to work, rebuilding sustainable enterprises, and all the like. But let's come to Kenya. Kenya, we have been doing well. If you have to look at this year, comparatively with last year, our inflation rate has been coming down. So as of February, it was at 5.08%. And we have seen a reduction in inflation because of a reduction in the price of food. There's something nice that the government did, I think it was the end of last year, or this year, I can't remember, whereby they cut down the electricity tariff by 15%, and you could see the impact of that right across the economy as well. But having said that, obviously we don't exist in a bubble, and whatever happens in the bigger world is also going to affect us. But generally, we're looking at a growth rate of about 5.3% in the year 2022. Having said that, we also have a movement, and for those who raise their hand, they belong to part and parcel of a movement. And that movement is the cooperative movement. And I think even as I do my presentation, it will be important for you, for those who don't understand, or for those who do but may not have a global perspective, just to appreciate what the cooperative movement is all about. Now, I got this data from WOCO. WOCO is the World Council of Utility, and this is the data for the year 2021, end of December. The word credit unions is interchanged with Saccos. Here in Kenya, we are called Saccos. If you go to Europe, go to the US, go to Australia, the same Sacco is called a credit union. So in total, there are about 86,000 credit unions, at least under WOCO. There are more than 375 million of the people who raised their hand in this room. We exist in 6 continents, 118 countries, and our penetration rate is about 12.18%. Now, this is too small for you to see, but just in Africa, in terms of the asset base, you will see we're talking about $16.1 billion US as the asset base for the movement. Now, if you pay attention to that figure, you look at Kenya. Kenya has 13.6 billion Kenyan shillings, compared to how much? 16 billion. All right? In terms of membership, the credit unions in Kenya are about 9,000 or so, against the total of Africa of 40,000. So we have a fifth of the membership, but we account for more than 80% of the total assets of the cooperative movement in Africa. And I think as Kenyans, we deserve a clap for that. So the reality of the matter is that Kenya, the cooperative movement in Kenya is the largest in Africa. And we as Stima Sacco consider ourselves to be the second largest Sacco in Africa. And that's a point of fact. The other point of fact is, although we are a Sacco, and I know I like comparing this so that I can give you a perspective of how the movement is. There's always a feeling that Saccos are backward, small enterprises, old school, draconian, but that's not necessarily true. Stima is a good example. If you have to look at our asset base of currently about 48 billion, that makes us bigger than most banks in Kenya. So there are about 43 banks, and if you're a bank, would be bank number 17 or so. But I'll come to that a bit later. Importantly as well, just for you to understand the movement in Kenya, is that, this works, good. So the Saccos are of 2 types. One is a deposit-taking Sacco, the others are called non-deposit-taking. So the deposit-taking Saccos are the ones that have been regulated by an entity called SASRA. SASRA is the equivalent of CBK to banks. So for the Sacco movement, we are also regulated with the same stringent, if not more stringent regulatory requirements, just like in the banking sector. So, and that's where we are. We're about 185 of us. From last year, you might have seen a lot of discussions around having non-deposit-taking Saccos being regulated by the same regulator. And so far, any Sacco with 100 million shillings or so falls under this category here. And of course, there are many others as well. So the market share, it's important to have this discussion for the deposit-taking Saccos, if you're following me. There's a 20/80 rule that applies in the market, just like anywhere else. We are 20% on more than 80% shareholding of the market. And what you can clearly see here is that we have 34 Saccos, deposit-taking Saccos, who account for 72% of the total asset base of Kenya, as far as the Sacco movement is concerned. And just the top five control 31% of that market share. Just the top 5 Saccos. And I can just name them. This is Mwalimu, this is Police, Mwalimu, Stima, Police, Harambe, and then Afya Sacco. So just the 5 of us control about 31%. So the bankers in the room, please forgive me, but it's something I need to share. This is a report that comes from CBK and from SASRA, our regulator. It's a report that tries to showcase the savings if you put money in a bank and if you put money in a Sacco. So this is what it says. The average dividends that Saccos gave out last year, in the last 3 years, this ranges between 8.2% to 9.4% on average. Similarly, if you put money in a Sacco, you would get something between 6% and 7.1%. If you put money in a bank, you will get between 3 and 5. So it is only us in the Sacco sector who are anywhere close to the CBR rate in terms of the return. So if you think about the inflation I was talking about, you also have to consider where you're putting your money in. Because you have to put your money in a place whereby it is higher than the inflation rate. Otherwise, you're eroding value and true wealth that you do have. What I've put down here is Stima as a Sacco. Although this is the industry, for the last 4 years, our dividends have been 14%. And the return interest rebate is not 11, I think around that space, it's actually 11%. It's not 1, it's 11%. So think about it, I've been in business for a long time. And I've tried my hand in a lot of variety of business. And if there are any business people here, how easy is it to run a business that gives you a return of 14% net after you deduct all the expenditure? That's the way you need to reason out. And maybe I need also to explain that the fundamental difference between a bank and a Sacco is very, very simple. A bank, in my opinion, is an association of money and capital. It's where money sits together. A Sacco is an association of people. People come together, they leverage one another. You may not have collateral, you have somebody else who can be able to guarantee you to get that facility. You come alone, you don't know anyone, you can come with your family, so that the family is also able to guarantee you. So you leverage one another. And if I go back and give an example of Stima, we started back in 1974. And we only began with 5 members, just 5 of them. The initial 5 then became 10. And they had the same problems 48 years ago, just like right now. Is how do I take my kid to school? How do I, if I want to get married, do I have the money to do that? I want a car, so how do I get a car? I want a house. Somebody died. I need contribution. So that's basically what we try and do, is just to leave the journey from when you're born until when you die. Stima will be there for you. And of course, the other Saccos will also be there for you as well. Because I'm in a selling mood, and I told you I'm a salesperson, I'll also tell you one reason why you should join Sacco. And I'll give mine as an example. One of the big problems I've seen in the industry is that for customers who borrow money, you borrow with a fear that if you default and say you gave your house as a collateral, the moment you go, because all of us are going to die, then you have that genuine fear that the people you leave behind will be kicked out of the houses. So what we've done in the Sacco sector, and ours is a good example, is, and I needed to explain from the very beginning, that when you join a Sacco, you must have ownership in it. Ownership means you're an owner. You pay shares, you buy a shareholding. So I don't deal with you as a customer, you rather deal with me as an owner. That's the fundamental difference. And that's where the return of 14% is coming in. So the key thing there is that as an owner, you have a lot to say in terms of how your money is invested, where it is invested, and the like. So when I look at Saccos in general, we had a good investment view, because also when you borrow money, I think that's the point that I was losing. When you borrow, we assure you one thing, and I want to give it's better to give a testimonial. I have a case of a member who passed away, unfortunately, and had taken a loan of 24 million shillings. And our model is that, you keep some money with us, you multiply, you have multipliers at the times 10. So in this case, he took a loan and had a multiplier of 3 times. So he had 10 million shillings, took a facility of about 28 but unfortunately died when the loan was only about 24 million. So what we normally do is very simple, is that we've insured the loan portfolio itself. So in case of death, it means that loan is no longer being paid. But importantly, because you have put 10 million shillings with us, we pay you back 10 million plus 10 million. So you paid 20 million shillings. To compound. Seems like I've lost some people. I need to re-explain, right? Okay, so when you come, that member had 10 million shillings. We assessed him, and he said that he can get a loan of 30 M. He took 28. So the 10 million is alpha deposits. It is deposits, the savings that he keeps with us. The savings that I'm saying you get a return of about 11%. When you die, that money that you have kept in a Sacco is multiplied times 2 and given to you. Okay, not to you, to your next of kin. You're not going to enjoy that money. So the person who had 10, the family gets 20. And the loan that he had with us is also paid off. Isn't that a lovely thing? Yeah? So this is what we're trying to say, that we in the Sacco sector, it's not just about lending, it's not about profit, it's about people. It's about thinking, how do I build you without having to snuff you out in terms of making money from you. And this is the reason why we give money back. So the 14% money that we've given, and the Saccos I know you have given higher rates than that. The idea behind it is that as an owner, I have used your money, and by virtue of having used your money, you are entitled to a return on it. So unlike putting it in a savings account, seated there and waiting for an interest of 3, 4, 5, if you put that money in a deposit, it allows you to get loans, but most importantly, it also enables you, at the very beginning I say, trust me, give me your money, I'll assure at the end of the year, the principal sum is there, but most importantly, that you do have a return. So that is generally the Sacco model here. So the other key thing I wanted to compare is data that I received from, again, CBK and SASRA. This has to do with just the general performance. Because people ask me, as Sacco said, if I put my money there, will my money disappear? So this is how I'd like to answer this question. This data showcases deposit taking Saccos, commercial banks and microfinance banks. It's not my data, it's data that you can get from CBK monthly economic indicator. And there's a line here called gross non-performing loans, which basically means that the likelihood of a loan not being paid. In the Sacco sector, because of COVID, it increased from 6.15 to 8.39%. In the banking sector, it was 12 to 14.5%. In the microfinance from 19.5 to 26.6%. In other words, without looking at the numbers, I'm just trying to say that the model that we run seems to be working from a business perspective. We have a lower NPL rate, And even if you have to look at the growth of the loan book in percentile times from here to here as compared to here to here, you'll see that last year, the year 2019 and the year 2020, Saccos continued lending. We never stopped. When everybody said, freeze, COVID is here, people are losing jobs. I remember in my organization, in 2020 is the year I hired more people than I've ever hired, I think in the last 10 years. Why was that? Is that we saw beyond COVID. I mean, COVID, and it's important to say this, we did not know COVID was coming. But COVID has been an opportunity for so many of us. Because COVID made us rethink, adapt technology that we never have done. I remember 10 years ago, I'd go to the board, 8 years back, we'd go to the board and tell the board, we want to do virtual meetings, what we Teams, Zoom. And people will look at you like, you're out of this world. You want us to meet virtually? How? But COVID came and we embraced that. So there has been a goodness around it. But anyway, my point there is that organizations such as Saccos are indeed embracing technology. And because I am preaching, I'm trying to convert the non-converted who are not in the Sacco sector, it is important for you to also appreciate, as a movement, we have principles, and there are 7. So the 7 principles of this movement, number 1, to enter a Sacco is voluntary. So we have what is called open and voluntary membership. No one can force you to be a member of any Sacco. It's your right. You can choose whichever you want. Number 2, we have democratic member control. As I mentioned to you, you're an owner, and because you're an owner, you have a say in the democracy. Tell Nite tunafanya 20, this one, the August, people are going crazy. The cooperative officers we work with, they always tell us, why don't those big players come to the cooperative movement to understand democracy at work? To understand real democracy, where you as an owner end up electing, whether it is delegates, representatives, and the board that actually sits in the Sacco. So that's the second very important bit, democratic member control. 1 man, 1 woman, 1 vote. We started that a long time, quite ago. This is a very important one, cooperation amongst cooperatives. So we don't compete with one another, we collaborate with everyone else. So you find, for example, in Stima, Saccos coming from Botswana, from South Africa. I had a couple from Zambia, Malawi, and the like, across the world. And of course, us moving to the other side of the continent to try and learn from one another. We don't have secrets, so to speak. If I'm successful, I need to show the others how to become successful. We are autonomous and independent. That's a very key thing. People always ask me, is Stima Sacco for Kenya Power? Absolutely not. At one time, we used to be a Sacco for Kenya Power, East Africa Power and Lighting Corporation. And then later on, we broke down into the Kenyans, the REAs, the GDCs, and everyone else. And then from the year 2020, we opened up to everyone. So all of you here, at the end of my presentation, if I'm successful, I'll give you an application form so that you can join and become a member. So what does Stima mean? Stima is very simple. I want you to remember this. I hope for, if anything in my presentation, just need to remember this. If you use Stima, then you can become a member of Stima Sacco. Utakumbuka hiyo tu. If you remember that, then alright? So the other key thing is member economic participation. This is very key for us. If you're a member of a Sacco, then we need to empower you. That's why we pay you, not because you ask for it, but because we have to. The role and reason why you're in a Sacco is so that you can grow. So you have a right in terms of the returns that you're actually making, and that's what we mean by that. Concern for the community, you'll see us doing a lot of events for the communities around us, whether it is CSR, boreholes, taking people to school, and the like, quite a lot around there. And this is the most important thing that can differentiate a Sacco from any other financial institution. This one right here. We take it for granted. Literacy, financial literacy. It costs an arm and a leg in Kenya just to be educated. But we in the Sacco sector do it for free. It is a requirement as per our principle to educate you in terms of your financial well-being. And it's something that, for those who are not members, you can also consider. In terms of our playing field, as I noticed and said at the very beginning, there are banks. Yes. Let me ask. Okay, let me not ask again, which occurs. But the point that I'm trying to raise here is that Saccos play in the field of the banked and the unbanked. I was going to ask if any person keeps money under the mattress. That's mattress banking. And then I realized there's a fortune in buying to happen. So I'll not ask that. But you do realize there's so many micro-financial institutions, fintechs, shydowns. But did you know shopkeepers are also in the business of lending money? Think about it. Anytime you go to a shop and say, Mama so-and-so, I do not have money. Now, I don't know if it's alien. And maybe let me explain. I was born and raised in Kipra. That's where I come from. So if you remove this lovely suit I have, and a lovely pink tie, let's leave the shirt on. If you strip all that, the title away, I just jump up to Kibira. That's who I am. So back in the days, we never had money. And all the time I remember we would go to a shop and beg, so to speak, that we'll pay tomorrow or the day after. That is lending. That is the business of a bank and a Sacco does. So what we're trying to do as a Sacco is to make sure that we are in the space of anything that you get in a bank. If you want a checkbook, if you want an ATM, if you're traveling across the world, a card, a credit or a debit card, we'll actually do that for you. If you want to do RTGSs, EFTs, direct debits, if you want to fix money, fixed deposit, oh, that's a very good point. Let me just say for the Saccos this one. If you put money in a bank, we will mix the rates the bank gives you for a fixed deposit account. But most importantly, you will be taxed less in the Sacco than in a bank. The way the law works is that the law says that if I deal with my members, then the taxation regime is very different. So this is what it means. If you go to the bank, the withholding tax is 15%. In the Sacco sector, anyone who knows? Withholding tax? Anyone? Yeah, you're right, 5%. So that's a big saving for you as well. Instead of going to pay a higher taxation amount, you can actually pay less. So who's Stima? Stima as an institution, I'm trying to build something there. I don't know if there are any abstract people, artists in the house. They could probably tell me what they see. But Stima Sacco's vision is to redefine financial wellness. So what does that mean? It just means redefine who you think a Sacco is and what a Sacco can and cannot do. We have no interest whatsoever to become a bank because we think anything a bank can do, we can do, and we can do it much better because we listen and we care. We empower members for life. So anything we do, if it has got nothing to do with the member, we don't touch it. So part of our pillars, member value creation becomes very key. We'll see us a lot around business growth and brand equity, capital and financial sustainability. We have a bigger core capital than most banks will have. I think our current core capital is at slightly about 7.2 billion shillings or so. So it's very important for us to ensure we do have that. And we always learn and grow, and you'll see a lot of that in the presentation that I'm about to make. So for the artists who are here, what do you see? You have to be an artist or an abstract thinker. Yeah? You saw a house, right? Yeah, so that's our house. So we believe that as Stima, our vision and our mission is the roof that covers us. We should never forget that. We have core values. Our pillars that make us stand strong are the three that I've just mentioned. But the foundation of us is the internal processes, how efficient we are. This year, as an example, we'll be rolling out a true core banking system. Moving forward, it's cost us quite a lot. But the idea is, do we have that internal structure to manage the people that come on board? And of course, I talked about learning and growth. Learning and growth is very simple. I said, Stima Sacco is the second largest Sacco in Africa. I mean, so what? The likelihood of being complacent is very high. I mean, you're the second largest, so what do you have to learn? So that's what learning and growth is about, is to say, hold on, you think you're large, but you think your mom's cooking is the best, but have you tried the neighbor's cooking? And I'll demonstrate that in a few minutes, that although I say how big we are, then you'll see in a bigger context, probably we are not. So we made some strategic assumptions as an entity, and I wanted to raise this quite a bit. I did the strategic plan for Stima in 2019. It is to run to 2024. We made many assumptions. The first one, political stability, that we'll never see a run again of 2007. That is so bad for this country. We made assumptions that there will be macroeconomic environment stability, favorable regulatory framework. But this one, COVID-19, in my wildest dream, to be very honest, I never saw that coming. I never thought that there'd be a pandemic, and that pandemic one day could have been an existential threat to us. There's a time all businesses were closed. We were lucky. We were amongst essential service providers. So at least we came to work. But COVID-19 changed the narrative of who we are as an institution. Embracing technology has become very key for us. Being relevant, I mean, that's what keeps me up awake. Am I still relevant to my member? So COVID-19 was one of the key things that we didn't see. Just a key highlight. Out of curiosity, how many people in this room are members of Stima Sacco? I think I should give you like 30 minutes to convince the guy next to you why you should be a member. But we'll do that after the presentation, if the facilitators allow. But just a few numbers. One of the key numbers is that our membership is at about 154K. The loans those people who've raised their hands, they have taken, is 36.4 billion Kenyan shillings. The money that they have put with us is 34.2 billion. Last year, we generated a revenue of 6.8 billion. Our core capital, like I said, is 7.2 billion, and our asset base at 46.5 billion. So this money that we raised here, more than 50% went back to their pockets. And that's the key difference again between a Sacco and other financial institutions. The money we make, 50% of this went back. We paid 3 billion good shillings in terms of dividends and interest rebates. And I can see them, they're actually smiling. I don't know what they did with their money. Najijua. Okay? So, moving forward a bit faster, this is just to showcase our statutory ratios are all good. I will not dwell into that. But let's talk a bit about strategy. So, in terms of our strategic direction, from a marketing perspective, we do believe in having branches. We have 9 in total. CBD, Kawi Center, Parklands, Mombasa, Nakuru, Olkaria, Embu, Eldoret, Kisumu. I don't know if I've left any out. That doesn't look like I've counted well with my fingers. Have I left any members? None. Okay? So, however, we've also gone into a realization, because of COVID, that you cannot keep on putting up a branch. It's very expensive to do it. So we've gone into something called agency. We have one agents, it's called Stima Sacco Mlangoni. We already have 20 on board. We're looking at having an additional 180 new points. Our idea is very simple. We'd like the day you open up the door, the first thing you see is Stima Sacco Mlangoni. That's what it's called that. When you open your office, unafaa kuona Stima Sacco Mlangoni. Think about where the M-Pesas are. Everywhere they are, we'd like to be there as well. Similarly, as I've mentioned, we are leveraging new technology, so a lot of investment around our core banking system, innovating new products. We are strictly on Ansoff-based go-to-market strategies, and I think majority of your marketers, so you understand that. So this is our go-to-market strategy. Purely Ansoff. We went back to the textbooks, looked at it. This is what Ansoff said, and practically implemented it. So we are very good around that. Some of the other key initiatives we have, things like Salary Chap Chap, If you take your salary through our institution, I can guarantee you your money will reach earlier than if you put your salary through a bank. It's a guarantee of money back. Can guarantee that. We have mobile banking as well, Star 489 hash, a mobile app as well. But as an institution, we're thinking bigger. I know this is a weird thing to do. We're going to have a second mobile banking platform, a second one. And people ask me, isn't that crazy? No, it's a redundancy. In case one goes down, you quickly just switch to another. So we have been there before, and it's something that we intend to do again. We do have an insurance agency, 100% owned by Stima. I want to convert that into a brokerage later. But this is a good one. The agency doesn't need to be a member. And I want you just to think about what I'm going to say to you. If either your child passes away, your father, mother, spouse, or the father and mother of your spouse, and up to 10 people, will cover you for only 3,300, and at least you'll get a last rider of 100K. I know I've said a lot of things. I'm just trying to say this. There are many of those forms that zunguka around your offices. Somebody has died, contribute here. Somebody has died, contribute here. Have you ever thought of how much you actually contribute in a year? It's quite a lot. But here we're saying, through our insurance agency, that if you just give us 3,300, we guarantee that in case either of your two parents, or the two parents of your spouse, or either or your 4 kids, or up to 10 people, that you'll actually give back 100,000 shillings of that. And I think it's something amazing, in my opinion, if you really think. 3,300 divided by 12 is about 275 people. So instead of people walking around with makaratasi, we're only saying commit 275 in your office, and you'll be able to be covered fully. So that's basically what you do. So again, internet banking, and let me skip a lot of this. But I'd like to talk about this one and this one, the two things. As a Sacco, we give mortgage facilities through Kenya Mortgage and Finance Company. We are actually an equity shareholder. There are 11 Saccos, 8 banks, and 1 microfinance, which are in that organization. So, you've heard about the affordable housing? You've heard about that? If you earn a salary of 150,000 shillings and less, and if you get a house of 4 million bob and below, just check the Standard on Thursday, Journal's paper. You'll see how many houses are worth 4 million and below. They're quite many. You can be able to get a loan at 9% per annum for years as a mortgage facility. 9%. Similarly, we have funding that is coming from the World Bank and Africa Development Bank, and we'll be able to elongate that to about 8 million shillings. Something worth considering. For my Muslim brothers and sisters, Stima Sacco is the first conventional Sacco in Kenya to offer Sharia compliant products. So why are we doing all of this? We're doing it because of what I said. Are we beneficial to our members? Is my member coming and saying, I'm getting a service somewhere else, and are we able to provide for them? And if the answer to that is yes, then the question is why not? So the positives, according to me, the Saccos in general, and I know I've talked good about Saccos, but it's also good to say more credit. There are a couple of issues. One, the positives, we do enjoy a widespread coverage. We are well known. This is not Stima, this is the Sacco movement. Like I've demonstrated to you, we have very low delinquency rates. We are undergoing rapid. We do have a regulator who enables business. I think this mic is about to die, and I can finally have my pink microphone. On the negative, Saccos still offer more loans than savings and other facilities we talked about. And I have seen so many people, the day you retire, then you take all your savings out of the Sacco. In Stima, our biggest and the most revered membership, the guys who retired. And we always encourage them that once you retire, still maintain your money. Ensure that post-retirement, you have a source of income. That every month, there's a place where you can get money from. People forget that, and that's why the majority of us die very quickly once we retire. We are used to the easy money, but then post-retirement, you realize things are a bit hard and things go haywire. So, but if you invested in a Sacco, I have seen individuals who walk away. I don't know if I should disclose this. I think the highest dividend I paid last year was 5 million shillings to one individual. Yeah, 5 M. Sini pesa mzuri. 5 million. I have people who retired from work a long time ago and say, I took my kids to school because of the Sacco sector, and right now, post-retirement, I just want to see the world, I want to enjoy, because I never enjoyed it. All my life I've been working, but right now it's my time to enjoy. So I look at that. Personally, I'm the 38th biggest shareholder in Stima. Why is that? Because I tend to think that I do not want to repeat the mistakes of the past, whereby as a young man, and in case, not in case when I die, I'd like to leave something for my family. A place where they can go and continue with the movement and continue earning something when I'm not here. I'm still taking care of them, but I'm not here. So again, it's food for thought for that. One of the key problems we have around Saccos, we have high entry barriers. So majority of the Saccos, I'm sure, will ask you to put like 25,000 shillings in share capital. We are changing that as Stima. Effective 4th of April to join Stima Sacco will only cost you 1,000 bob only. It used to be 25,000 shillings. Why? Because I remember where I came from. I was born and raised in Kibra, and I asked myself, the person in Kibra, the young me of 30 years ago, would he join Stima today? If the answer to that is no, then I have to do something about it. So I was talking to myself, and we always told that in leadership, you have to consider those who are less fortunate than you. And you also have to look at the experiences that you've gone through. So I'll skip that, but it just tells you, as an institution, we are doing well. Trust me, that's what it says. But I want to give 2 case studies. One, the Navy Federal Credit Union is the largest Sacco in the US. Who knows what is the asset base of the largest bank in Kenya? How much?
1 trillion.
Yeah, good. 1 trillion. You know the bank,
Yes.
right? You can say it, but I can't.
Equity.
But it's the largest bank in Kenya, isn't it? Is that what? 1 trillion. So I want to tell you, there's a Sacco seated somewhere in the world called the Navy Federal Credit Union. It is that old, with so many members, with an asset base of how much? There's no error in my presentation. How much? For those who are behind, 15.3 trillion Kenyan shillings. That Sacco is 15 times the size of the largest bank in Kenya. Food for thought. 11.2 million members. That's in the US. The second one is called Van City, a Canadian Sacco. I like this because as Stima Sacco, we have benchmarked ourselves a lot around Van City. Its asset base is around 25.6 billion. Somebody please assist me to convert that into Kenyan shillings. How much? Najua marketers hesabu ni ngumu, but just times 100. Yes? You are allowed to call the office and confirm. Somebody says it's a lot. Let's agree it's a lot. So it's quite a lot of money. It's about 3 trillion shillings or so. The uniqueness about these 2 Saccos, and there's one that I have not indicated, I didn't have time to put it there. It's called school's first credit union in the US. Its asset base is about 3.6 trillion Kenyan shillings. It's based in California. LA, California. That one, and these other circles have some very unique marketing model. You see, us here in Stima and the Sacco sector in general, you will see a lot of us in newspapers, in TV ads, a lot in radio, somewhere above the line, really trying to sell. Social media, we're all over it. But these people tell me that they do not spend that kind of money and they do not see a need of doing it. I find that unique, and as I sat there saying, oh, you know, I'm the second largest Sacco in Africa. Then I converted our asset base in dollars, and of course I kept quiet, never spoke again. Because 15.2 trillion is quite a lot of money. So what do? They say, instead of, and this is, for me, was revolutionary. They said instead of going on TV, live, national, they only grow purely on referral, nothing else. And they believe in that. If you speak to the CEOs of these big, great institutions, they'll tell you, marketing, you know, the promos that we're doing, we are not there. What we mostly do is that we've converted our marketing team into like a sales team, so to speak. In this sense, they believe in data, big data. So there's a lot of investment around their systems, around data analytics. So they don't sell to Hassan because Hassan is an X-year-old man who lives in a place called Wale. They don't do that segmentation, but they sell to Hassan because Hassan is Hassan as a person. They know me. They probably know the last time they actually know because of doing the EFTs and the RTGS. And probably I spend too much money in a garage. I'm always paying a mechanic somewhere. And they're telling us that because of that, when they look at the data, they look at the trend, they can quickly say, hold on, why don't you come and buy a car? Oh, they notice you're paying rent. And they say, no, but why are you paying rent? When you look at your accounts, we think you could afford a mortgage facility. So there's so much into big data that they have reduced the need of the above-the-line kind of promos that we're very good at doing here in Kenya. Of course, once in a while, they put a billboard, maybe in a place like this, if they're targeting this particular institution. But the way we have been taught that we need to market and we need to go big and above the line, those very big institutions don't do it. And they truly believe in that. They say referral is the best thing that you can have. If you have one good customer, just one good one, he can generate you to be the premier financial service provider in Kenya. We believe this. Any Kenyan, anywhere in the world, should be a member of a cooperative movement, and preferably of Stima Sacco. We also believe any person working in Kenya who is not a Kenyan should also be a member of Stima or the cooperative movement. We purely exist to empower members for life. For our members who are here, I am delighted to see you. I'm delighted to serve you. And like I mentioned before, we are an association of people, not money. In terms of our contribution to the economy, we have cumulatively as a movement more than 72 billion shillings in asset base, approximately 1 trillion and a loan portfolio of more than 700 billion shillings. And this is across all sectors. I'm sure I'll give you homework and I'll come back later. If your parents are still there, probably ask your parents, have you ever been in a Sacco? And what has it done for you? And then I'll come back to you. Somehow I'll get that information. So we being the second largest Sacco in Kenya and Africa, we have done our bit, as I've mentioned before. These are our figures, they look good. We still believe even post-COVID-19, there's room for growth for us in the sector and in the movement. You can decide to join us. If you do, I'd ask you to visit our website, stima-sacco.com, stima-sacco.com, and then you can be a member. And my assurance to you is this, that, and I speak on behalf of the movement, most of the time we have so much flack and negativity because there's always one or two people who misbehave. It happens. But generally, the Sacco sector is a very safe haven to put your money in. Unpaid anything that you read in the media. And anyway, media is there to sell. The more spicier story is, the more likely it will sell, isn't it? But I'm here to tell you something, that when I look at the Sacco sector and the Sacco movement and the contribution it has done to this big economy of ours, and being the largest in Africa, I always see, I mean, the sky is not even the limit. There's so much beyond what you can do. There's so much great things that are going to come from the movement itself. And I want you to be part and parcel of that journey. Whether it is Stima, whether it is any other circle that you're in, I really want you to invest a bit more, put a bit more money in it. And my assurance to you, like I said, we are a stable, financial, sound institution. Come to me and say, I am getting this from a bank or any other financial institution, and I assure you I'll be able to match. At the very beginning I said, have I confirmed I'm a salesman? So, this is my closing pitch to you. Give me and entrust me with your money. I guarantee you, your money will come back to you. This is not a gamble. And for the young men and women in this room, stop gambling. The 20 bob, the 40 bob, the 50 shillings, the quick rich. You want to drive a Lexus, a V8. Having worked for a year, it doesn't work that way. Success comes with a lot of patience, a lot of, hard work. A lot of wisdom behind where you put your money. The guys who are wealthy and rich in this country, they didn't do it by throwing away every coin they have. And I see you guys doing that. They always tell us, and I know this makes me very unpopular, but I'll say it, and I always say it because I truly, honestly, inside me believe it, that we are always shown the winner. But have you ever asked yourself, for that one winner, how many losers are there? Just think about it. So you'll get your 1 meter, your 10 M, 50 M, whatever amount of money. Shouldn't it be a law in Kenya for people to tell us, this one person that we are elevating up there, this winner, the person who won 50 M, shouldn't we be asking how much was contributed? Ningapi iliyokotwa ndio ile 50 M ilipwe? You'd be shocked. You'd be shocked. You'd be surprised. So I urge you, it's a 20 bob, it's a 10 bob, it's a 50 bob. That's the place to put it. A place whereby I guarantee you, your principal sum will come back. If you gamble that money, your principal sum, is it assured? No? No, it isn't. Isn't it? I assure you, if you decide to put money in terms of interest rate, that's about 11%. I assure you become an owner of a business. My Sacco, my investment, my Sacco, my business. And I assure you that the moment you want to leave, the money will be there for you. We'll give it back to you, together with everything that you have earned. With those very many remarks, thank you, and if there are questions, I can answer.
I wanted to ask about tax relief. The way they do it in insurances, how does that apply to Saccos or not?
I should say yes, you're really after. The question that I have is that many people in the Sacco sector are struggling with the issue of collaterals and guarantee, whereby you need to get people to guarantee you, and at the end of the day, the people don't pay back. What strategy do you have in place for Stima in such a way that when you join the Sacco, you are safe even with your money. Thank you.
It's being offered to you in terms of, say, it's a mortgage relief. You can also get the same within the Sacco sector as well. So we can have that discussion in terms of what is this particular relief that is being offered. And even if it is not being offered, then I'll be the person knocking at the door for the CS and the PS to make sure that it is done. Our main aim is just to create an even playing field between the banking sector and the Sacco sector. So we do not want a preferential treatment, but any treatment that they're given, then we also expect to be given as well. On the issue of the guarantorship, what we have done as a sector, what we've done as a sector, let me talk as Stima Sacco, which is indeed a big problem. Let me put it this way. You walk into a Sacco, I've sold you a very nice thing, then you come in, and then the first thing you're told, hey, bring a guarantor, and then I don't know anyone, isn't it? So two things we've done. First is the banking way. You can bring any collateral, whether it is your motor vehicle, whether it is the title of your land, whether it is money that you have in a bond, whether it is money you have in the stock exchange, anything, a fixed deposit account that you're holding somewhere, we can use that as a collateral. But importantly as well, we always encourage anyone who has liked what I've said. I always say don't come to Stima Sacco alone. Obviously, you can come alone, you can get a self-guaranteed loan, you don't need to be guaranteed by anyone. Up to 90%, 75 to 90% of the value of what you have saved, you can guarantee yourself. That's okay. But still, don't come alone. Come with somebody else. Who's this person? Your spouse, your mother, your father, your children, your uncles, your brothers, and the people you work with. I have very rich groups in Stima, very rich families. Why? Because the families leverage on one another. I know I don't want to sound stereotyping, but it's almost an African of us to work together as a family. I see that a lot and again, I don't want to sound stereotype, in the Asian community. They're very good at coming together as a family. But I've seen Africans within Stima who have come together as a group for investment purposes, to build one another, to leverage on one another. So instead of giving donations outside towards the family, we tell them, join Stima, let us walk the mile together. But importantly, in terms of technology, what we're rolling out effective of June is what is called an e-guarantee model. It's very simple. This thing of running around with phones, filling, that's going to be history. The only thing that will be required is from the comfort of your phone. By the end of this year, all the loans in Stima Sacco will be converted into mobile loans. That sounds bad. Let me say it better. All the loans in Stima Sacco will go online. So the normal loan, we don't need to fill a form anymore. Just like you can be able to get a mobile loan, you should be able to get a Sacco loan. So if you have moved that step of telling you do not come and fill a form, the next step is to say, also your guarantors, you don't need to look for them. We'll avail for your platform of potential guarantors, potential segments of people who work with you that you can be able to tap in and get the guarantors that you require. But our model is very open. We have taken the best of the banking sector in terms of the collateral, for those who wish to bring in collateral. But on the other hand, we can never forget that the people who do not own a property, do not own anything, they only know somebody else.
Indeed, that was a very good presentation, and I think if I could afford you, you'd be in my team. My question is, you have indicated that you want something to do with your sales model will be Stima Mlangoni, you mentioned Sacco? Stima Sacco Mlangoni. I'm one of those guys who believe Stima is only for KPLC guys. So maybe for you to make that model to materialize it, then you need to make us believe, number one, it's not for Kenya Power. And number two, there's need for you to have a bank kind of model, because we believe in seeing where I put my money, not an agent like M-Pesa, because that's what I have. The idea you've given is that you want to open agencies similar to maybe M-Pesa, then there is that need to open branches because they're easier for man to man, or that there is a personal connection when you have a bank. And for that matter, I am a contractor and I build branches.
That's a market, huh? We were told 2-3 years ago that Saccos are draconian. We don't care where you are. We don't care about your brand. All you care is whether you can give us money like Tala and Okash and Fuliza, and whether you can give me from the comfort of my bedroom. So, as much as we put the branches on board, we are trying to make sure that within these gadgets here, I can give you all the services a branch can. So it's a combination model: agency, a bit of internet banking, a bit of mobile banking, and also a bit of a physical branch. And I've had you regarding building. So we're doing 3 branches this year. You should reach out to us.
Yes. So if you know you've raised your hand, let's give him one round of applause. For doing such an amazing job in just explaining to us what the Sacco is. One of the things, he's talked about the Sacco, so I won't repeat anything about the Sacco, but one of the things that I've really loved about how he has maneuvered some things is how he has evaded, like when he was talking about the mattress, I liked how he evaded some groups of people. We all remember what happened in the Oscars, and we are glad that we do not have a replica of the Kenyan version. If you know, you know. If you do not know, YouTube is your friend. At this point in time, I'd like to appreciate a few people who have come on board. Okay, they're not necessarily a few, but without this group, we will not be able to host as many people as possible. And before I mention them, I'd like you guys to do me a favor. So I know we are in a social age, and people are in different platforms. There are those of us who are on LinkedIn, there are those of us who are on Twitter, there are those of us who are on Instagram, Facebook, the rest, there's Snapchat. I don't know how many people are on Snapchat. So I'd like you to take out your phones and just take a photo of this amazing auditorium with yourself in it. Post it on the socials, because this is how we're going to grow the marketers community in Kenya. This is how we're going to make Marketers Night Out like the biggest event for marketers in Kenya. So do that, put the hashtag is Marketers Night. Marketers Night without an apostrophe, and the night is N-I-T-E. I'll repeat that once more. The hashtag is Marketers Night, N-I-T-E. Let's create awareness to as many people as possible, because the owners of this event and the planners do not know your circles. Some of them might be interested, but they didn't know something like this existed. And on top of that, it's a nice excuse to show your smile in an event. So, yeah, as we do that, I'd like to mention some of our partners. We have ETC Marketing, we have Urgent Cargo Handling Limited, we have Royal Tulip Canaan, we have Weston Hotel, we have Nation Media Group, Hugo Kenya Limited, Uppercut Digital Media, Advanta Africa Limited, Springboard Capital, Fast Assurance Company Limited, PZ Carsons, East Africa, McKinney Schools, Walt & Walt, OOH, Spark Communications, Mililiki Space Properties Limited, SBO Research, Mau West Company Limited, Flyjet Renegade Air, Fly Renegade Air, Climate and Energy Advisory, Arena Africa Insurance Brokers, Ledrad Media Limited, Unga Group Limited, Boma International Hospitality College and Design Tech Africa Limited, and Amexa Group Holding Limited. That is part one. I'll read the next after I invite this lady, who is, I was privileged to meet her in one of the marketing events. I think it was in Nation Media Summit. And she's an amazing person, and she is part of an organization that is doing a peace forum. We know that we're getting to which election, to which season? The election season, right? And what happens after the election season? We have 4 years of thinking with our minds, and then 1 year where even your neighbor becomes your enemy. See, that's the truth. See, that's what happens in Kenya. And we've seen it even in South Africa where things like this normally happen to us. So we are doing, our Nation Media Group is under the tag brand Studio, which is a house brand, is doing a campaign that is called Mimi Kenya. And to explain more about what this is about, and just to get us involved, and I believe that as corporates we can take part in such activities just to bring unity together. Help me welcome on stage the one and only Shelby Kamau.
Peace initiative whereby we are bringing all Kenyans together just to participate in what we are trying to do. So as you know, every 5 years we are faced with the election. And the election brings such almost tension within the country where we forget who as a people we are. And I believe some of you can resonate with that photo, because that's what sometimes we represent when there's that uneasiness as well. So the whole point of the peace campaign is to remind ourselves that we are better together as a people. And in terms of Kenya, we look at it as a brand, and we're very important in terms of us protecting it. In terms of when we look at it, when we come together, normally we are happy-go-lucky people, whereby we, in terms of sports, we come together, we are united, we don't allow partisan politics to separate us. And the whole point is just to inculcate that responsibility. So what did we do, and what did we go and do ahead? So we created a brand that resonates to what we are trying to speak to. So it's basically to leverage all of you to be united, inculcate that responsibility, and also like a value proposition in terms of connecting with Kenyans. So We Are Made of Kenya is what we created as a brand. And the whole point, if you look at it, it's a movement. So we played around with the Kenyan flag and the colors and what it means for us as Kenyans. So if you look at the logo, for example, it can symbolize two aspects. So there's a flag, whereby, and then the hands are protecting the flag, which shows unity. Or if you look at it from the top, you can see that it's a dove, which symbolizes peace. So, and then the brand is called We Are Made of Kenya. Now, We Are Made of Kenya is a brand, yes, but we think because we are speaking about the elections, we'll focus on now what resonates with Kenyans, which is Mimi in Kenya. And this might mean so many different things to so many different people. But if you look at the connection and who we are speaking to, it's a people who are capable of voting, and it cuts between 18 to 65, and that's the connection that we have. But our primary target audience is the 18 to 35, because if you think about it, these are the people who unfortunately are influenced to do wrong things by, let's say, politicians by giving things like token, and maybe fracas may sprout out. And for example, now, if we speak to them at the same time, according to statistics, they are around 7 million new voters within that age group of 18 to 35 who are going to vote this new year. And that demographic, we just need to bring out that almost voters' apathy, why it is important for them to vote, why it is important to them to think about the future, and why it affects them in terms of the future. Some of the thematic areas or objectives that we are looking at is to celebrate our diversity through peaceful messaging. Because at the end of the day, we are a diverse country with around 47 dialects or tribes, and we are all Kenyans. Kenya is one tribe at the end of the day, and that's what we hope to preach. Build a patriotic movement driving peace and unity throughout the year, which is very important. So it doesn't stop until August, it continues. And then engage directly with the youth across the country to drive behavior. Again, because of our primary target audience, you'll find that a lot of our activities would cut across digital and below the line activities. So in Kenya activities, I think the first thing we did was to launch it. And we launched it on February the 21st. And we invited different stakeholders. And when we were creating how we're going to launch it, we thought of what is that one place that unites Kenyans. And we launched it at the rugby grounds over here on Long Road. Because again, sports is that one place that people are normally really united when it comes to Kenyans, for example. So we launched it and we invited a few stakeholders and we showed them what our thought process was and how we need to work together as partners and shareholders just to push the message across. So some of the things that we are doing is also working with different bodies to speak the language of women in Kenya, whereby we are pushing from different places. From, like you can see from the pictures, there's the government, the lady Nadia, there's the sportsman Omanyala, for example, whereby they just push the peace messaging just to help us reach different people, because different people might follow them, and we need all the help that we can get. That's why we're looking for partners to just help us push the message across. Now, one of the other things that we are doing, again, like I said, we are heavy on BTL, or below the line. We are doing gubernatorial debates across the counties. And the first one that we started with was at Baringo. And it was a very interesting engagement, and we had partners who are also partners currently. CPF came on board and supported us as well as other partners who are coming on board. And some of the things that we are trying to do, as much as this is happening, because sometimes it's good to engage people who are vying for seats. Instead of us being, for example, we are known as a Kenyan people, sometimes we are key warriors. So we take our facts on social, but we never do anything to engage people on ground. Such forums enable you to go as a person. For example, if it ever happens, let's say in Nairobi, go engage these people who are vying. What is important to you as a constituent? Like if I'm in Nairobi, for example, whichever I am, let's say it's Dagoretti North or South, for example, or Nairobi in general, what is important to you? What are you looking for in the next leader? Because the person is going to lead you. So such forums create the opportunity for you to engage the leader that you want to choose. Instead of us complaining on social, what we are saying is let's inculcate that responsibility for you to come on board and join and try and push your agenda and make sure by the time you're voting, whoever you're voting for, you vote from a point of knowledge and who you want to vote for. And that's the whole point of allowing for this peace project that we are doing. The other thing that we are doing is that we are also trying to create, again, because we are trying to cover the whole of Kenya, so what we've done is create route maps whereby we go through different counties doing different activities with different partners, and each town will be different in terms of engagement. So we already have route maps, and in terms of the partners that we're engaging with, some of them now, as we're working with partners, we have to align in terms of the outcome. So you find that some of the towns that we'll engage in will be different engagements. It's not copy and paste, so depending on what town we are in. Some of the other things that we are doing is campus tours, and we are very lucky to have a partner in USPAC, which is a body within the university sector, whereby it gives us around access to around 2,000 students across Kenya, and whereby for campus tours, again, it's that demographic, and you have to speak to them in a way that they consume content, in a way that you can engage them. So you have to be at their level. So some of the things we might be doing, as much as we are doing these things, is engage them, and it will be a mixture of so many things, in terms of voter apathy, in terms of even a bit of music, again, because you have to align to how they consume things and accept things. And some of the things also we're doing is just a route map for the campus tour that we're starting with. So PC is our first one, but that's just an example of how we've subdivided it in terms of Rift Valley, Mount Kenya, and Nairobi. And there are a lot of activities that we're doing. that now why partner with NMG? Our approach, I think, above everything else is 360. We are who we are as Nation Media Group, yes, but for us to ensure that we reach the people that we want to reach across Kenya, we need help in terms of shareholders, and we cannot, or partners, and we cannot do that by ourselves. And we know there's so much we can do as a media house, but together, in terms of partners and in terms of partnerships, we are able to do so much more and push the messaging that we want to do. And at the end of the day, it's about the Kenyan people, it's about our brand, Kenya as a country, and how best we're going to move forward as we anticipate the election and after the election. So we kindly are asking you to participate and let us work together, and it's good to see some of the partners we hope to work with, the likes of Boomplay who are here, who are we in discussions, because you might find that some partners have strengths where we lack, and together we are able to harness such beautiful synergies and work together. Yes, so that's the end of my presentation.
There we go. There are the hands. There are hands. Head. And go. Water. Water. And go. Last time. Awesome, you guys may have your seats. Yeah, so we do some of this fun activity. So ladies and gentlemen, help me give a warm welcome to Dr. Wale Akinyemi.
Colombo and the organizers for making it fit to have a village boy from Nigeria to come and speak. So thank you so very much for the opportunity. Customer experience in a volatile ecosystem. I'm just getting my act together here so that I can. How many of you grew up hearing African proverbs? We all grew up hearing African proverbs, you know. And I don't think there is any society that has proverbs like us, particularly in Nigeria. We just have proverbs for everything. But you need to, if you want to progress, I think you need to get to a point where you stop listening to those stupid proverbs. Because what good have those proverbs done in our society? Is somebody hearing me? You want to follow people who have something to show for what they are saying, not people who appear to be intelligent. And you know, there are people who appear to be intelligent because the general level of ignorance has gone viral. And so, you have people who appear to be intelligent. So I stopped listening to all those proverbs unless the person telling me a proverb has something that can inspire me. Unfortunately, we carried this forward into education. So we began to listen to anybody who sounded intelligent but had nothing to show for it. And so the result of that is we have a lot of people who will give you the academic theories of customer experience and business and all that, but they are so out of touch with the reality on the ground. Oh, is somebody hearing me tonight? One of the things I have discovered, a lot of those who shout the loudest, and it's some of you sitting here, and people here, a lot of people who shout the loudest about customer service have the lousiest customer service. Am I telling the truth? I have seen so many people shout and customer experience, it's almost become a fire. But when you now engage some of these organizations, you wonder what they're talking about. Because they do not reflect what they are talking about. And so today, I work for an organization called the Street University. And one of the things I have always believed about universities, they should be centers of learning and centers of research. And so the research, the business community will feed into the research done by the academia. Unfortunately, in our case, most of our universities are not really into research. But at the Street University, we began to look at certain things. And one of the things we looked at is this thing called the customer experience. And so what I'm going to be sharing with you is the product of a lot of research and engaging with thousands of, literally hundreds of organizations across the globe. And so the first thing we want to establish is the difference between customer service and customer experience. Is there a difference? I'll tell you. You see, customer service deals with a moment. Okay? A moment. You spoke with somebody on the phone, the way they handled your matter was fantastic. You engaged with somebody at the counter, the way they treated you was fantastic. Customer service deals with a moment, but the experience deals with an ecosystem. And that's a fundamental difference. And it deals with a value chain or an ecosystem around the moment. And that's why a lot of people miss out on actually providing customer experience because they are focusing on a moment. They are so locked into the traditional customer service experience. If what you are still doing is telling people to smile, you are outdated. Because people can read through. People know. How many of you know when somebody's smile is fake? There we go. And you are all customers somewhere. So it's gone beyond that. All right? It's gone beyond that. And a lot of people are not able to make the shift. So listen, you may have the greatest customer service in the world, but it is just a snapshot of what makes the experience. And it's not the totality of the experience. And so one of the great takeaways from our studies was what we now call the customer experience value chain. All right? Customer experience value chain. And the experience value chain looks at every point that affects the overall customer experience. And I would like to demonstrate this. Let's imagine, can I have a volunteer? Anybody, he or she, anybody, to just come forward. And please, thank you. Thank you. All right, so let's look at it this way. You want to travel, okay? And the first point of contact when you're traveling is when you're buying your ticket, isn't it? Okay? So let's imagine this is the guy in charge of the platform where you buy your ticket from. What's the next step? You have your ticket, The next step is you check in, isn't it? Evans, come. They can see this houseman. So, Evans is going to represent, so you are the guy who creates the platform where you buy the ticket from, isn't it? So you are in charge of that aspect. Evans here is now the guy at the counter. Okay? So think with me, what comes next? Sorry?
Check his ticket.
Yes, so he's at the counter. So once you've gone through the counter, you go on board, isn't it? Yes. So, Jennifer, come. This is my own in-house flight person. Okay, so let's do Evans, please come this way. So Jennifer, you stay. So Evans, stay here. I hope you are watching this. So this is when you buy your ticket, isn't it? Yes. This is when you check in. This is the flight person that welcomes you on board. Okay? Who else is involved in this whole travel process? The pilot. Who wants to be the pilot? Please come. Come. This is going to make this thing so easy, you will need help to miss it. So, you are the pilot. Okay? Now, so what do we have next? So let's look at it this way. No, the passenger is the one that's experiencing. So, we come here. We have a fantastic experience checking in. Okay? I mean, buying the tickets. It's a fantastic, seamless. So at this point, this is customer service. It is a seamless experience. We are happy. Then we get to the counter. Then this guy has a bad attitude. Okay? Now, what has his attitude done to the rest of my trip? Okay? Okay, let's assume he has a good attitude. He's my friend. He's a good guy. He's a good guy. So he has a good attitude. Then we come here, the flight person, she is amazing. She does a great job. Now, the pilot, who you can't see, is also fantastic, isn't it? All right, now let's just juggle some things around. Are you ready? Yes. What happens if this is seamless, this is seamless, this is horrible, and this is the best in the world?
You'll remember the horrible.
What will your memory of that flight be?
Horrible.
Okay, now, let's spin it around a bit. This is excellent. This is excellent. This is excellent. But this pilot thinks he's on a mission to bomb Ukraine. So, what is your memory of that flight going to be? So listen, it does not matter how good this guy is. How good this guy is. Just one person messing up in this ecosystem will define your experience. And can I tell you something? Experiences are defined by the lowest moments. That means you will totally forget the good that this one did. Oh, but there's still somebody. There's still one more person. Are you ready? So assuming all these guys were good, his checking in was seamless, I mean, ticketing was seamless, checking-in was seamless, your flight attendants were seamless. The pilot was the best in the world. You land, and then your luggage is lost. So who is the luggage handler? We need a luggage handler. So now we have our luggage handler. You know what a lot of organizations have been doing? You have been focusing on the individual. Whereas it is what? An ecosystem. Now, if any one of these is not up to par, is not operating at where they should be, that person now defines that relation, that experience. Are you hearing me? Because experiences are defined at the lowest level. You will always remember the lowest level. You may sit down. Thank you. Now, thank you so much. Now, it gets even more serious. Another word we can use to define experience is memories. In essence, what are your memories of your interaction with that organization? Now, you know why that is very serious? It's because memories are contagious. Okay, let me, look. Every single person here, there is something you can think about right now. With nobody else in there, there's something you can think about and you start laughing. Yes or no? You see, just the thought of it, many of you are smiling. Why? But do you know, there's also something you can think about right now and get upset. You know why? Because memories don't travel alone. Memories are always accompanied by the same emotional state you were in when the memory was created. Why is that a tricky matter? I have a friend, this girl can cry on demand. I mean, she is just absolutely phenomenal. Yeah, I mean, literally you can go 1, 2, 3, and the tears are flowing. It's like a crying machine. Now, so I said, how do you do it? She said, it's simple. She said, I just remember my late mom. Are you getting this? So that memory did not travel alone. When you recall the memory, it comes with the same emotional state you were in. Is somebody getting it? So that means if somebody has a bad memory concerning your organization, do you know what will happen? Anytime they recall that memory, it comes with the same emotion that existed when the memory was created. And because emotions are contagious, that is how people who have never interacted with you will have an opinion about you based on the bad memory that one person had. Does that make sense? That is why we cannot afford to just look at a snapshot of the guy who sold the ticket. No, because every single participant is crucial in this matter. And that is what we call the experience value chain. Now, did you notice that even the pilot who is not customer facing or the baggage handler has a part to play in this. Did you notice that? So that means when you are doing an evaluation, you are not just dealing with the customer facing guys. Let me tell you what happens in a lot of places. So let's take a bank, for instance. You have the guys who go out. You have the relationship managers. They promise you heaven on earth. Okay? So you come in. Now when they take, when you now make a demand on the heaven on earth that they promised you, they now take it inside to somebody you cannot see. And what does that person do? He says, it's not going to happen. Now, so guess what? Even though the people you interacted with were top notch, the person you did not see is the one that you will define, that will become the definition of your experience. So are we a bit clearer today, right now, up to this point, about the experience? So it is so important, the concept of the value chain. So we need to find out in your organization, what is your experience value chain? Have you ever bothered to take time to know it, what your experience value chain is? Now, one thing I've noticed, in some organizations, you will find out that the person that will mess up and create the bad memory is not even your employee, it's the security. Am I telling the truth? It's the security. Now, when you get out and that security man treats you badly, when you get out of there, you will remember the security at wherever it was. Isn't it?
With the level.
Oops. The security is already hearing today. So that's why this issue of the experience value chain, you cannot afford to mess around with it. So we began to ask questions. And the question was a very simple question in this research we did. What makes a great customer experience? It's a very simple answer. And we now began to look at the different answers from thousands and thousands of respondents. And there were 9 key things that came out. That these are the ingredients of a great customer experience. And if any one of those 9 was missing, it messed up the experience. And then, so that's how come we created what we call a customer experience index based on these parameters. And the first parameter we saw for making a great customer experience is, number 1, an understanding of the need of the customer. That's number 1. A lot of people assume that they know the need of the customer. My brother Baker is here. You know, I cannot get over what you said in Mombasa. I have shared it with so many people. They thought I was intelligent. They didn't know I had it from you. He said they have 16,000. That's the number, isn't it? 16,000 customer engagements in a month. Why? Let me share something with you. Harvard did a research some time ago, and they found out something shocking. Marketers, hear this, that organizations, and they listed them, I wrote about it in one of my other books, that they are now spending 10 times more on research than on advertising. 10 times more. Now, why do you think they are doing that? It's because when you research, then you already know what the customer wants. So you are creating what you have found out that they want. It is so simple, isn't it? So let me give you an example. Since you have, how many of you have a Facebook account? Okay, good. We do. That means officially, according to my children, you are old school. Now, have you ever, you're watching the news, prime time, and then there's a Facebook ad, connect with one another. Have you ever seen anything like that? Have you ever seen, just before the beep, Google? Have you ever seen anything like that? Why not? Because they know what you want. And so they have created what you want, even when you did not know you wanted it. Oh, is somebody hearing me today? So, in the customer experience index, number one is the knowledge of what the customer wants. If you don't do that, you will just be experimenting. All right? You just be experimenting. There was an organization that we worked for some time ago, and they had, HR and all this customer retention stuff. So they had the most phenomenal retirement benefits ever. But nobody, those benefits are not moving anybody because the demographic. The average age was about 25 years old. Now, a 25-year-old does not give a damn about retirement benefits. Am I telling the truth? So when we engaged with the customer said, you know what you just do, once a month, give us a TGIF. Just take us to Carnival, let's drink. Is that all? Yeah. So, they did the TGIF thing. And they began to do it every month. And that year, they exceeded targets by over 70%, 70. Why? Because we knew what the internal customer wanted. And we provided it. Is somebody hearing today? So that's the very, very first thing. The second thing, and I will stop at the second one because there are 9 of them. The second one is execution. I am going to read something from here. Okay. Execution. Now, a lot of guys, what has turned them off is that we have said we're going to do something, but we don't do it. Or we don't do it like we said we were going to do it. How many of you have things that are in your strategy from last year that you have just not been able to execute? The whole truth and nothing but the truth. So you're here. So why has execution become such a great thing? And we discovered that companies that execute people actually interpret swift execution as a great experience. Let me give you a story that, now, another survey found out that people who go to a hotel, okay, and everything is normal, everything goes as planned. Now, guess what? Only about 60-65% return. Okay? But if something goes wrong and it is swiftly dealt with, that figure jumps to about 85%. So let me paint it for you. So you get to the hotel, and you know what? Found out some organizations actually now deliberately do this. So you get to a hotel and everything is okay, and then suddenly you want to have a shower and maybe, so you call. Then guess what? But what you didn't know, everybody was ready for you. They were ready for you. So the minute you call, boom, the first person goes, sorry about that. While the guy is fixing it, somebody else, the manager has called to apologize. While that is going on, somebody has brought a bottle of wine. While that is going on, so you are bombarded with execution. How many of you know the next time you go to that hotel, you will be hoping that something goes wrong? Yes or no? You will be hoping that something goes wrong. That is the power of swift execution. And that is why it is an integral part of the customer experience. Of course, there are different things that, make this execution thing not work as we want it to work, which are things that you need to look into. It could be the environment in which you're operating, it could be the capacity of the executors. There are a whole lot of things around that, okay? So that is the second. Do you want to hear the third? Yes. All right. The third thing that people have unanimously said, if you have this, it's an integral part of the customer experience, is communication. So this is the third parameter on the customer experience index. And it starts from internal. All these things go from the inside out. Does the employee, let's start from inside. Does the employee, the internal customer, feel he has a voice? Does the customer have a voice? This will determine how revolutionary the company will be. And I will give you a case study here. We all want to feel valued, don't we? So if you're talking to somebody, how do you feel if you're talking to somebody and they are not looking at you all the time you're talking and they're just on their phones? How do you feel? All right? Now, so guess what? Communication is going on. In the book, Business at the Speed of Thought, Bill Gates, that's written by Bill Gates, he said that just like every individual has a nervous system, that when you hit your foot on a rock, how long does it take for the pain to get to your brain? Immediately. He said every organization has a digital nervous system. And he said, you can measure how good it is by how quickly bad news gets to the top. Is somebody hearing me? Or how quickly it gets to who needs to fix it. All right? So that's one of the things communication. And I will share a story here about a great man. And when we talk of communication and listening, I think this is the best story I can cite, and I was involved. So listen. Many years ago, I was doing some work with the UN and Bob Collymore, who were in that panel together. And so I told him, this was in Nairobi, I told him, I said, my daughter has beef with you. Then my daughter was 16 years old. Now she's 23 and she thinks she's the next Nobel Prize winner. You know, she was 16. I said, Bob, my daughter has beef with you. And Bob said, then we need to meet. So, there was a session a few weeks later that I was doing, and he said, bring her. So, and I felt that was such an opportunity. So I went with my daughter, and Bob said, I hear you are upset with us. She said, yes. And he said, tell me what we have done or what we have not done. Now, how many of you remember a time when if you bought data and you thought the data was for 24 hours, then at midnight? Yes. You remember? That was the problem my daughter had. So when she said it, Bob said, we are thieves. Then he turned to the person next to him. He said, does your daughter know we are thieves? We are thieves. Then he painted an example. He said, this is like Wale buys fuel in his car. He fills his tank. Then he parks the car in his garage. And then at night, we go. We take all the fuel. And then in the morning, we send it back to him. He said, we are thieves. It was the best articulation ever. And he said, we will fix it. And one day, I get a message. Done. Just one word. How many organizations will change something major because of feedback from a 16-year-old? How many organizations will even give the 16-year-old an opportunity to speak to the CEO? And when there is solid communication and the customer feels we have a voice, then they will say it's a good experience. There was a hospital in the United States called Griffin Hospital. And this case study is in a book titled Tribal Leadership by Dave Logan and Harry Fisher or something. It's called Tribal Leadership. Great book. And in that book, there was this hospital that was, people knew if they moved you to that hospital, just begin to prepare for the funeral. Okay? It was general knowledge. But do you know that they had new leadership? And do you know that hospital was turned around and became one of the best, Fortune 100 best places to work in America? This hospital was there. And for many years, it was there. Right along, the big boys, the Googles and co. So, looking at how did this transformation happen? Communication. People felt they had a voice. So you see somebody cleaning the floor, and he will point, and he says, see that thing there? It was my idea. You see somebody in housekeeping who says, you see that painting? It was my idea. Then, talking to the customers, the women, they had a maternity section, and the women said, when we come to give birth, we are not sick, so we don't want to be treated like sick people. So guess what? The hospital created a whole new reception for people coming to give birth, and they even had a piano there. It was like a hotel reception. Is somebody getting me? Communication. They were listening. They were listening. How many have I given you?
3.
What was the first one? Okay, what was the second one? And what's the third one? Okay, do I have time for one more, Kalumbo? Okay, Kalumbo has said I don't have time for one more. That is very good, because that means you will have to buy the book. All right, it's called The Experience from Customer to Ambassador. But before I sit down, let me tell you what I want to offer you. Because you see, good customer service will give you customers, good products give you customers, good experiences give you ambassadors. And that's where you want to be. So, one of the things we now do, which I will just throw out there, is to help you take your customer experience to a whole new level by conducting customer experience value chain assessments. And through these value chain assessments, we help you identify your experience value chain, evaluate the performance of each point in the chain, because we will look at the ticketing, for instance, and we run them through the 9 parameters. We look at the check-in, run them through the 9 parameters, and so on and so forth. Then we're able to identify the strengths and weaknesses along the chain. And there we can do this, identify which branches have a better experience. Is it a regional thing? And then we fix the bugs. So I would like to encourage you. You see that my flight person? She will be out there. If you would like to engage us in that, please talk to her or reach out to us. I would like to give Kalombo. Please come, Kalombo. Cynthia, can I have some more books? Can I have some more books? I'm feeling very generous. Since you are the one that brought me here, please come. I'm going to give you a book. Baker, you can't come from Nigeria and go empty-handed. Okay, those Nigerian proverbs. But this one is a good proverb. Please, Baker, I want to give this one is a good proverb. It's a very, very, very good program. So Dottie, you are the one that took me to Mombasa. I will not forget. You gave me a good experience. Because I can be very fussy, I have my own room at White Sands. And if you put me in a different one, I will not go. I will talk about that customer experience another day. So, very good man. You gave me my room. very, very fussy guy. So where are the books? Where are the books? Oh, good. Gosh, feeling very generous.
Where are the women?
Yes, Liz, please come. My co-speaker. Let's look at it this way. You know I'm about to drop the mic, so I can afford to be mischievous. Maybe the ladies should try to give me a better experience. So guess what? Nobody has a copy of this book yet. It was released today.
Wow.
Thank you, Kalongo. Thank you. You better bring me to Nigeria. Thank you so much. So, I'm done. Kalongo? Okay.
The people who made it on time today, they were here. The top 10, you all get Dr. Wale's book. The first one is Valentine Gesale. Valentine, is he the house? Valentine, where is she? Number 2, Sylvia Masongole. Please make your way. Maureen Wamboe. Diana Okumu. Peter Nzuki. Magdalene Gisheru. Newton Wanja. Nicodemus Mudoe. Elizabeth Obanda. And Alice Kamuyu.
So you see, now you see the ladies are represented, eh? Yeah. Thank you so much for coming early. Thank you. That's part of the culture we want to. There we go. Thank you so much. Okay. There we go. Thank you. There we go. Yeah, good to see you again. Thank you. Am I need some more books? There's just something so powerful about the fact that the very first books to go out were given out. Isn't that something? You're welcome. Thank you. I need 3 more books. Are you? Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Not yet. How are you? All right. So, ladies and gentlemen, I hope this session has added value. Thank you very much for having me. The books are available outside. And if you would like us to help you with the customer experience evaluation, give me just, let's talk. We're here for the whole night. Thank you very much indeed.
Thank you so much, Daktari. Let's give it up for him one more time. A round of applause, ladies and gentlemen. And one of the most interesting things is, you know you're a good orator even when people are hungry, they still want to listen to you. So thank you so much for your words of wisdom. We really appreciate it. This is just a reminder that this band is your ticket to get to the upper room. The upper room is where we're going to be networking, and also it's where the food is. So please ensure that the band is in your hand. Sawa? Because that's your ticket to your meal. I've been told that there are people who put them in their pockets, there are others who put them in their bags, there are those who probably came early and do not have their their bands. So ensure that you have your band. I'm also being informed that we will be having a cash bar upstairs. So once we get to the upstairs room, we will be able to indulge, but we'll also have food being served. And before we finish up, I'd like to recognize one of our biggest supporters. He's come from all the way from Nigeria, the CEO of Guinness Nigeria. I don't know if he was expecting this, but I'm going to invite him on stage. Ladies and gentlemen, help me welcome Mr. Baker Magunda. Yes, I mean, you can come and say hi to the people before I invite Mr. William Kalongo, who will be giving us directions on how to go up. Karibu sana.
I might lose my residence permit because in Nigeria you don't speak after your elders. So, Dr. Wale, please don't pull my residence permit. Good evening, colleagues. Greetings from Lagos. It's always exciting to be in Nairobi. When I was told we're going to have a Master's Night, the reason I came is I was the last speaker on the 8th of March before this country closed on this stage. So I hold special memories of this place. I want to thank all of you for continuing to support Marketing Africa. I do truly believe there's an opportunity for us to learn, share. I've been with Marketing Africa since they started, and I attend as many sessions as I can. And every time I come, I learn. So I hope you tell many more people to come and share their experiences. When I was listening to Dr. Wale speak, I just want to amplify one thing that caught my attention in the illustration of the check-in and flight experience. If some of you have read a book that has just come out by somebody called Bernard Mann, he's talking about the 8 trends, the 8 consumer trends of 2022. And one of the trends he talks about is disintermediation. He talks about 8, but there's a trend he talks about disintermediation. It is caused by that frustration, where brand works so hard to be memorable and consumers consider to use it, and then the handover of the customer experience becomes bogus. And as a consequence of that, and with the help of digital, many brands are beginning to disintermediate. If you work for a business that is an intermediary, as Dr. Wale has described, you are in trouble. Brands would like to eliminate that handover. Right? The fastest individual runners in short distance reside in America, and they run for the American team. And yet they are most hopeless at the 100 by 4 relay. They always drop the button, don't they? Somehow they always do it. I've watched like 4 Olympics and they feature it. That is what brands are beginning to get frustrated with. So I think the call, if you work for a distribution company, a platform provider, a ticketing company, you need to go back and speak to Dr. Wale and say, how will I, in that ecosystem, continue to add the experience value that he's talking about? So I just want to amplify that, because sometimes we forget to notice the trends, and I'm such a fan of observing trends. It is always very important. I think the other amplification I want to give to his expressions today is the idea of ecosystems. If you work for brands, guys, think how each one of those that have been illustrated today not only adds value to the final experience, but actually builds the reason for consumers to consider you in the first place. I would invite you to read a book by Sharp. Dr. Sharp is an Australian. He wrote a book called How Brands Grow. And one of the things he says there is, memory structure are built by 2 things. Can I find this brand. Of course, I can find Kenya Airways if I wanted to fly. However, is it always mentally available? For the good reasons, not the reasons Dr. Wale has described, where your worst experience becomes what you remember. A bad experience, as it's described here, does not build emotional availability or memory structure for a brand. So this is connected, and for you who are running brands, you need to think about that. You also need to always remember that every consumer decision is as if it's the first time the consumer is using a brand. Marketers who came before us, perhaps including myself, we always thought there was something called consumer loyalty. It does not exist. Every time consumers make a decision to buy you, put in the effort so that your marketing and commercial effort converges to recruit them every time they choose to come. Therefore, you have to worry, where they buy my product, where do they go back? That's why we're now preaching convergence of marketing and commercial effort, so that we give ourselves opportunity for repeat purchase. There are many reasons why you go back to the same shoe shop, why you go back to the same perfume shop, hair shop. There must be many reasons. Yeah, speed, quality, makes you feel rich, whatever. But always remember, if there is a disruption in any one of those, it's unlikely that you go back. Yeah? The funny thing for me is always remember, consumers are looking for speedier experience. So if your brand cannot claim superiority in anything of these things illustrated, you're in trouble. So you always have to approach from a point of superiority. Thank you very much, and I hope I'll meet you at the drinks and we'll have some fun.
Thank you so much. Let's give it up for him one more time. So as I invite Kalongo, who will be guiding us to, in regard to how we're going to be going upstairs, I have been your host, Summarex, the baby-faced MC. What I do is I try to ensure that I do my hosting in a memorable way. Our tagline is bringing smiles, creating memories. So ladies and gentlemen, let's give it up one more time for the visionary of this whole event, Mr. Kalongo.
Sam, you've done a great job. Thank you so much. We are done. This forum has two sessions, as we all know, those who know. The learning part, which we successfully concluded, I want to believe that you've taken the lessons and that you put them to good use. The next session, of course, we have the ballroom. We set up a place for dinner. We don't have speeches there, so don't fear to come up with us. There's a cash bar. If your wallet has enough dollars, please open it up so that we can experience superiority from that side of you. So because of the lifts, I think we'll go in slow degrees. We'll prefer that the people closer to the doors start going up. Same floor, you go to 12th floor from the lift. So we are free to start mingling as we go up to party. Thank you so much.